Everybody deals with getting locked up in their own unique ways. Some guys fight prison every way they can. They play cat and mouse with the guards, just like they played cat and mouse with the cops on the street. They're sneaky, they run their scams, they steal things, they take pride in what they can sneak out of the dining hall. They melt down plastic spoons and sharpen them up into handmade shanks. They fight. They lift weights. They get stronger and stronger. They never look the guards or the wardens or anyone else in the eye. This is war, and they know who the enemy is. Some guys get into a routine, just put their head down and get into a routine. They walk the track, they read their books, they say their prayers, they eat their food when they eat their food, they get the same things from commissary and make the same dishes when they can't stand the prison food. They just get into a routine, and a lot of guys will say the best way to deal with prison is to get into a stable, steady routine that you just do every day. Every day. It's the best way to do your time. Some guys take every program they can in the education department. They learn Spanish. They learn about finance. They learn whatever they can. Some guys even take college programs in prison, which, at least when I was there, was becoming more and more of a possibility. Some guys find religion and read their Bibles or read their Quran or study, say their prayers, whatever it is. Some guys just survive. They just close in, hunker down, and survive. Some guys, though, I never ever found anyone who would come right out and admit it. Some guys actually kind of like prison, or are at least relieved by prison, because their lives outside are so hard that coming into a place where somebody has to give you a bed, they have to keep you fed, they have to have a medical facility for you to go to if you're sick. That's a better life for a lot of guys. One of the guys I sat at table with for a long time used to say, "I'm doing life on the installment plan," which means he would commit a crime, come to prison, time his way out, go out the door, commit another crime, and come right back in. So many ways to deal with a life of being locked up. For me, when I came in, I went into prison on what was called self-surrender, which means that I was not considered a flight risk, so I was allowed to live at home or free until the date of my incarceration started. So that means they trusted me. Basically, they trusted me to show up when my time came. And self-surrender kind of became my understanding of what was happening, because I knew that the self I had known before I got to prison didn't exist anymore. I had blown up my life. I've talked about this in other videos here. I had blown up my life. I had burned up my life. I had destroyed everything, both external and internal, that I thought I was. Every way that I thought I was a good person, every way that I identified and moved through my community, it was all gone. So something in me knew that myself was going to be surrendered in prison. Something in me knew that this end was an end, and that it was also a beginning. I had no idea the beginning of what, but I did not fight against going to prison. Something in me knew I even needed to go to prison. I had been fighting so hard to keep all these plates in the air, these plates spinning, these balls in the air, whatever you want to call it. I had been working like hell to pay people back and come up with the money to finish the film and do everything I needed to do. I was exhausted. And when it all came crashing down, of course, it was horrible. It was horrible for me, and the most horrible thing for me was the impact that this created for many, many people who had trusted me. So going to prison, I wasn't allowed to talk to these people. I wasn't allowed to reach out. I wasn't allowed to try to make money to pay people back. What I was allowed to do was to sit in prison and let that old self die. That was the self-surrender. The Mac Parker that I had created and curated and worked so hard to maintain and worked so hard to prove to people that I was good and I was this and I was that and I was honorable and I was trustworthy and all that stuff, that simply died. But the death, I don't know, maybe it's like when people come to the end of their physical life and there's a peacefulness that you can often see it who are in people who are near the end. There was a kind of peacefulness in me. I knew that something needed to die. Something was already dead. And all there was for me to do was to kind of let it fall away, to let the process unfold. And there was some sense of, I had no idea what would happen, but there was some sense of relief that this was going to happen. And there was some sense that this wasn't a bad thing. And there was some sense that there was something else beyond the end of Mac Parker, beyond the end of my life as I had known it. This wasn't a dramatic thing. It was a very gradual thing. I would sit in my cell and read a book I'd never read. Or I'd sit in my cell whenever the guards had a Christmas party or a staff meeting or whatever, they would lock us all in our cells for the day. And we would just be there to do whatever we could or whatever we wanted within the confines of our cell. And one of the guys in my unit, whenever there was a lockdown, we didn't have to go to work. We didn't have to do anything but just whatever, nap or read or whatever in our cells. So they would call a lockdown, and some people would go, oh man, damn, a lockdown. We're going to be in our cells. And this guy would say, a lockdown? Hey, don't threaten me with a good time. And he'd go in his cell and he'd just sleep for the day and relax and take it easy. So I read, I meditated, I lay on my bunk, hard bunk, and just felt deeply into whatever was there in that moment, whatever was untangling me from the mess that I had created, whatever feelings had been pushed down, whatever anxiety was there, whatever shame was there. I just stayed with it, and I stayed with it, and I stayed with it. And I'd go out and walk the track. I made new friends. I made friends I never would have found anywhere else. I remember Walter I think he was from Indianapolis. My name is Walter. He found out I was writing about my prison experience, and he said, I want you to write about me. I want you to tell people my name is Walter, and I like large women. And Walter and I were buddies. I met him in education, and we'd walk the track together. And he was just a great buddy. I loved him. So I made friends. I played softball. I didn't play basketball because basketball was a little too rough in prison for me at my age. But I loved playing softball. I'd go out there and chase fly balls. My friend Twin would hit fly balls to me or take batting practice, and I'd chase them down like I was 10 years old. I had a blast. I loved it. Something woke up. So even as I was dying, something new was coming forth, and something older and younger finally had the space to be what it was, with all these layers stripped away. The end was the beginning. And I couldn't have known that if I hadn't experienced it. But I sat with that, and I sat with the relief of not having to be anyone anymore, because no one expected me to be anyone. No one expected me to be good. No one expected me to be anything but an ex-con. And there was a great relief in that. And I began to look and to feel and to experience, what was I really? What was left when all these layers were stripped away, when all this falseness had been burned up in this fire? What was left? No way to describe what's left, but all I can say is that I knew that it was more real than what I had tried to be before. I knew that it was more peaceful. I knew, even though pretty much everything in my life had been destroyed, that somehow I was happier than I had been. Never could have expected that. Never could have known that in advance without going through it. But there it was. So I just want to close this one by saying I don't want to. The more I do these, the more I learn. I don't want to try to tell people, teach or give lessons or whatever, but I do want to share this, that whatever you may be going through, if there's an end to something or something that you kind of feel needs to end or is ending, the end, when it's faced and felt and allowed to fall away, however it's going to, whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's the end of a career, whether it's growing older like I am, whether it's doing something foolish that you feel ashamed of, whatever that end is, the end of a relationship, the end of being a parent, the end of something that you have cared about, the more, in my experience, the more you can let that fall away, the more you can honestly grieve what you need to grieve, the more you can let it happen because you know you can't stop it anyway. This opens the space for something new, for something deeper in you to come forward, for something new to come into your life, for someone new to come into your life, for a different understanding, for a different way of living. The end is always the beginning. The end is always the beginning. Be graceful and be tender with yourself in whatever is ending. Let it fall away. Don't put any time on it. Let it fall away. Let it take as long as it needs to. Let there be whatever grief is there. And know that there is something else there, something that remains, something that will come forth. The end is only the beginning. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming back, those of you who've been here before. If you're new to this, please feel free to like and subscribe if you do like it, and if you want to hear more. My intention is to do some more videos about my experiences in prison and whatever else comes up in my day-to-day life. Thank you so much for listening. Hope to see you again soon.